Professor Zex Thailand had always prided himself on his comprehensive understanding of galactic history. As the leading xenohistorian at the University of Centauri Prime, he had spent 3 centuries cataloging the rise and fall of civilizations across 47 star systems. His lectures on peaceful evolution of sentient species were considered the definitive academic work on how intelligence naturally led to harmony. Then the humans arrived. The classroom buzzed with excitement as 23 graduate students from various species settled into their bioadaptive seats. Today marked the first session of what Professor Zex Thailand had optimistically titled Comparative Cultural Development, a Study of the Terran Species. As we begin our examination of humanity, Professor Zex Thailand announced, his vocal sacs inflating with academic pride, we must remember that they represent a fascinating example of rapid technological advancement achieved through cooperative social structures. His newest student, Dr. Sarah Kim, one of the first human scholars admitted to the university, raised her hand politely. Professor, I appreciate your enthusiasm, but I think there might be some misconceptions in your preliminary research. Professor Zex Thailand's compound eyes focused on the small mammalian being. Misconceptions? My dear Dr. Kim, I've studied 17 different peaceful species transitions. The pattern is quite clear. Intelligence leads to cooperation, which leads to technological advancement, which leads to interstellar civilization. That's not exactly how it worked for humans, Dr. Kim said carefully. Would you mind if I provided some historical context? Of course. Academic exchange is always welcome. Dr. Kim activated her portable display, and the classroom's holographic projectors came to life. Let's start with something called the Bronze Age collapse, around 1200 BC in Earth's timeline. The display showed a simplified map of ancient Earth, with civilizations highlighted in blue. Professor Zex Thailand nodded approvingly. Yes, I see several cooperative city-states. Very typical of early peaceful development. Actually, Dr. Kim said gently, this map shows the collapse of most Mediterranean civilizations due to a period we call the Late Bronze Age collapse. Entire societies disappeared within a few decades. Many historians believe it was caused by widespread warfare, climate change, and what we might call the world's first refugee crisis. The blue areas on the map began turning red and disappearing. Professor Zex Thailand's eye stalks drew back in surprise. Surely this was an isolated incident, he asked hopefully. Dr. Kim advanced the timeline. Well, there was the Assyrian Empire, known for their military innovations and psychological warfare. Then the Roman Empire, which conquered most of the known world through organized military campaigns. The Mongol Empire covered the largest contiguous land area in human history, primarily through conquest. The holographic display showed empire after empire, each expanding through military force, each lasting for centuries before being conquered by the next wave of organized violence. The Altarian student in the third row made a soft chittering sound of distress. Professor, this doesn't match any known pattern of peaceful species development. Oh, we're just getting started, Dr. Kim said apologetically. The medieval period saw the development of professional military classes. The Renaissance brought gunpowder warfare. And then we have what historians call the military revolution of the early modern period. Professor Zex Thailand watched in growing horror as the display showed increasingly sophisticated weapons, larger armies, and conflicts that spanned continents. But surely, he interrupted desperately, once your species achieved basic technological advancement, warfare became obsolete? Dr. Kim paused, and her expression grew somber. Professor, our most devastating conflicts occurred during our most technologically advanced periods. The 20th century alone saw 2 global wars that killed over 100 million people. The classroom fell silent. The Zentorian exchange students' breathing apparatus cycled rapidly. The crystalline Vortak delegate began emitting stress harmonics. 100 million? Professor Zexthylan's voice was barely audible. That's more than the total population of most worlds. And that's not counting smaller conflicts, civil wars, or the development of weapons capable of destroying all life on Earth, Dr. Kim continued. We call them nuclear weapons. By the late 20th century, humanity possessed enough nuclear weapons to destroy our planet several times over. The Kytherian student stood up abruptly. I need to contact my homeworld immediately, she announced, her chromatophores flashing distress signals. Wait, Professor Zexthylan said weakly. If your species was so violent, how did you achieve interstellar travel? How did you develop the social cooperation necessary for space exploration? Dr. Kim smiled sadly. That's actually the interesting part, Professor. We didn't develop space travel despite our violent history. We developed it because of it. She advanced the display to show rockets, satellites, and space stations. Most of our early space technology came from military research. Ballistic missiles became launch vehicles. Military communication satellites became the foundation for global networks. The same industrial capacity that built weapons of war built spacecraft. Professor Zexthylan stared at the holographic display, his entire understanding of galactic development crumbling before his eyes. This is unprecedented. How does a species this violent not destroy itself? Oh, we almost did, Dr. Kim said matter-of-factly. Several times. We call them near-extinction events. The nuclear weapons I mentioned? We came very close to using them in large-scale conflicts. Climate change nearly caused civilizational collapse. There were pandemics, resource wars, ecological disasters. The Altarian student made that chittering sound again, but louder. Then how are you here? How did your species survive to reach the stars? Dr. Kim's expression softened. Because eventually we learned. We realized that our greatest enemy wasn't other species, it was ourselves. We had to evolve socially to match our technological capabilities, or we wouldn't have a future. She paused, looking around the stunned classroom. Humans didn't reach the stars because we were peaceful, Professor. We reached the stars because we finally understood the true cost of war. Professor Zexthylan sat in silence for several long moments, processing information that challenged every academic principle he'd ever held. Class dismissed, he finally managed. I need to reconsider my entire curriculum. As the students filed out in shocked silence, Dr. Kim approached the professor's desk. Professor? This was just part 1. We haven't even discussed the Cold War yet. Professor Zexthylan's compound eyes went wide with terror. There's more?